Hello, hello, hello. I hope everyone has had a wonderful week. Just waiting for everyone to come in to today's stream. Okay, I have had a controversial week. So, in my personal life, if you see the little trike thing in the background, you wouldn't think something that small could create a controversy. Here it goes. Okay, so my nephew turns 1 in a week, and I didn't know what to get him. So I said to my sister, let's go out for the day. She comes up with this genius idea and says, I'm thinking about a little trike. I said, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty awesome. And the moment I seen it, I'm like, no, screw that. I'm going to buy it. And then she looks at me and goes, you're really going to steal my idea? Yes. See that little trike? That little trike managed to annoy my parents and my sister in one day. Epic fail on my part, but I massively enjoyed it. So that's for my nephew next Saturday. Anyway, that's a personal note thing. That was how my day went today. And then I did grocery shopping and hated every second of it. Apparently Sundays are pretty packed. Ugh, that's cringy. All right, here we go. I've made these lives a little bit shorter now because I've realised that 2 hours is just too long and no one can hang on that long. So now we're doing it roughly 40 to 50 minutes. Hope everyone can stick around roughly around that long. We're just going to do a quick breakdown of the stuff I found most that you'd want to hear from me through the week, aside from my little gloating parts with my family. Okay, first up. So, where are we now with the election? See, the tallying part of this has been extraordinarily slow. I don't know if you've caught this, but we're still at 76 according to the AEC, possible 77. So it's not the way I was hoping. The AEC tally room hasn't officially done a lot of stuff. To say I'm disappointed is frustrating. I was hoping by now all the dust would have settled and everything would have made out its way like it's supposed to be. All the other news agencies have said this differently, which is what I'm really sus on. This part here says 76 and then it still won't get us quite to 77. But here's something that wasn't there before. Centre Alliance got 1, Katter got 1. I don't know how many seats that bugger ran for. The old bugger probably still do it until he croaks it. And he's mental. Like, if just catch one of Bob Catter's lives, I guarantee you it is the most mental midget moment you've ever seen. It is just insane. I don't know how he wins. I thought the Greens are still at 4 and the Independents still at 10. But the 76, possible 77, that bothers me. And the Coalition Liberal Party is still on 58. But I wanted to show you this because it seems like there's still some contention here about seats, which is, I don't know why there would be. This seat of Gilmore is 100% for ALP, but yet it still won't be put up there. I don't know. Maybe someone can explain to me why the AEC is taking so long with such a weird moment. I thought that you'd be interested in that. Okay, next thing that I wanted to show you. So, Albo has done amazing. Now, this is one thing that I've needed. If you followed me closely, you would know that I am a big fan of this family. And this family isn't just a little pet project or something. It was like this anchor for me to keep bringing up this family, because to me, this family sort of was going to make or break my vision of this nation. If this didn't happen the way that it did, I would have been devastated. Um, Needless to say, it did pan out the way I was hoping. But I think that I wanted more, because I want us to be a refugee nation. Why? Because I think we can do more. The more refugees we take in, the more compassion that our country needs to have towards families like this. I'm not just trying to say Albo did great here. I think Labor did a great thing here. I know that I'm giving Albo a lot of the credit because he went to the election and said all of this stuff. But this family is the way I vision the nation. If we couldn't be decent to these people, what else? How could we look at ourselves in the eye? We really couldn't. Which is why, for the past, so many years that I've been doing this kind of thing, I've always kept this family story up and relevant. This week they were greeted with a little festival that was on in Biawila, and it was beautiful. I don't think it's over though. Like, I don't think this family can just move on like any ordinary Australian family, because I don't think it is just an ordinary Australian family. I think it's the kind of family that we all wanted to see settled and happy and in their stable moment. But here's the thing that I really, really love to see. I was reading that there is nothing to stop this family also receiving permanent residency. This is super important, that their residency is kept safe. I'm not too sure on my whole family's history, but I'm sure that there is a lot of immigration involved back to some time. So I think we're all, unless you're the First Nations people, part of a descendant of immigration. And I think that if we're going to have a stance on anything, it should be this. There shouldn't be this idea that Australia doesn't take any more in. I don't know what conservatives, I don't know how conservatives thought this was an election winner. For instance, immigration creates a larger GDP, like massive. They do the jobs that most of us won't do, like fruit picking and many other industries that we don't do. These people are building our nation. Do not think that this family is just a family. This is one of many families that enriches our nation and makes it to what we call ourselves Australia today. We are the nation that is built on immigration. So any idea that the Conservatives are running around with right now, that somehow it'll break the economy, it's lies. Because the GDP is always stronger when we take in more families just like this one. This family isn't just a family. It's many that will cross and make some very perilous decisions to flee some very awful situations. But even ones in non-awful situations will want to call Australia home. And we will be richer and better as a nation when and if they do. So I will not tolerate any liberal ideology that runs around and tells people that immigration does something bad. It has never done anything bad. I have never once seen anything bad coming from the immigrant community. All I've ever seen them be is a hard-working, solid lot of people that honestly just want to be like every other Australian. This family will be forever traumatized because the LNP just decided, well, I'm going to be as cruel as I possibly can. I hope that the family now is in counselling and will receive the adequate help that it needs. But please, if you see anyone out there dissuading you of the notion that immigration isn't great, you need to remind them that they always improve our bottom line on our economy. So if that's their take, remember, our GDP is always better for the more people we take in. It is a lie that they perpetuate. Do you know one of our leading brain surgeons and heart surgeons were both immigrants? So do not give me some diatribe about the idea that they're not the best and welcoming part of our nation. I believe that they've enriched our home lives so much more. And I'm thankful that we have immigration. But I want to point this out to you because a lot of you on here have encountered the other side. And here's why I want to point that out. That vitriol is real. I've experienced it when they say, about how all I want is open borders and all that kind of stuff. No, I want general background checks. But do you know who I want better background checks on? People that are so-called patriots, being violent in the name of patriotism. If you're not watching the January 6 hearings in America and don't think that could happen here, you are sadly mistaken. The Murdoch propaganda around immigration and around hot topics is huge. So this family will experience no problem in their visa being granted for permanent residency. But I do want to stress that if you encounter anyone from the LNP, do not let them deter you on the idea that this was the best move Labor has made in God knows how long. I'm so proud of Albo and his team for making this their stump moment in the beginning of being PM. The next one I'm calling about is Julian Assange. That's going to be a little bit more difficult, but I think we can get there. Julian Assange needs to also be treated with the same moment. So, okay. There's also something else I've needed to show you, and this is to my big, big frustration. So, did anyone know that this happened? Write me a comment if you actually seen this little moment happen. Because what I seen here was way beyond anything I've seen before. Okay, here we go. So, did you know that this happens? The Governor General personally lobbied Scott Morrison about leadership program and given $18 million. Now, this is outrageous. Now, we have a job that is meant to be apolitical. I don't know how many people know this, but this Governor General is supposed to be apolitical. I don't even know why we have this weird role of Governor General. Apparently, it's a thing. It's the go-between with the Queen. But the very fact that he was handed this money and then this would explain why he never ever stepped in when Scott Morrison was behaving highly inappropriately. You have now 18 million reasons to not do your job. You know what his job was to do? To do something if our country ended up in trouble. And my God, there was a lot of moments of hair on fire moment of rorts and misinformation and just downright horrible work of the Prime Minister. Like when Scott Morrison was Prime Minister, he didn't just ruin COVID. He didn't just bugger up the bushfires, and he didn't just create a bigger catastrophe in the floods. No. They were just the cornerstones of his being PM. He also created this color-coded system. See, if you're in New South Wales, you got adequate flood funding. If you were in hold on, yeah, if you were in Queensland, you didn't get that. He didn't just bugger up a little; he buggered up a lot. But what does this man have to do with it? This man personally received money to shut up and not fix things, to keep all of the country running as Scott Morrison seen fit, rather than seeing the Queen as he should have and said, no, he's really not fit. You would think back when the bushfires happened, this would have been a thing. No, nothing. These people did nothing. See, he had $18 million reasons to do nothing. This is the same people which gave Barnaby Joyce a ridiculous amount of money, like $600,000 as water envoy. It's repugnant to its core that we are dealing with people. How does this Governor General still have a job? Albo should be firing this man immediately. Now, I don't know how they go about doing that. I don't know if a Governor General has ever been fired before. Let me know in the comments if this has ever happened before, because this shouldn't have happened. Like, a leadership role for what? He that was later allocated more than $18 million in federal funding. Okay, money for the Australian Future Leaders Foundation Limited to have claimed to have the support of impressive list of business leaders. And it was labeled as a charity as well, like, which meant that it was totally like tax exempt. No one knows what this money was actually used on. Was this like another one of them Scott Cam things, for the rather than actually allowing apprenticeships to thrive, he handed Scott Cam a lot of money to pretend like he was promoting apprenticeships. This has much of the same murky feel. And this stopped a lot of people from doing their jobs. Do not think that the Governor General just held on to this money himself. And the fact that it received charity funding, that means also disclosures in that charity funding are very difficult to come by. I have tried to look up for what this money was spent on. You cannot find it. I mean, I spent hours, and the most I got was, oh, it's there. Okay, where are the real journalists to actually FOI this stuff? Because now, underneath the LNP, I don't know if you know this, but it used to be free to FOIA documents. It used to be totally free. Now there's all these fees and everything attached to getting documents and stuff like this. So there's that as well. And I need you to know that this isn't over. We're going to have to keep pressing on this. It has been spearheaded by Chris Hartley, who some suggest used the foundation to climb the social ladder. The federal opposition is demanding to know why the foundation is of funding, which includes $3.6 million this financial year. The government should explain why while we've got $18 million paid over an entity, which yet doesn't seem to be operational. So it wasn't even operational. All of this needs ICAC. All of it. From the Great Barrier Reef ripoff to this. All of it. The water contract, all of it. These people are scared of ICAC. And here's why. This isn't some little whoopsie, I did a bad thing. This is bad. This is bad on top of bad. I cannot tell you how repugnant that is that was pulled. All right, next one. It didn't take long for Peter Dutton to already have a blame game situation initiated. If you haven't seen this, oh boy, strap in for this one. This one's going to be a rough one for you. So I have no idea why Peter Dutton is given so much time, but he is. And here we go.
They've only been chucked out of government barely a week, and the new opposition leader, Peter Dutton, is already carping on about, the cost of government, this is terrible, Labor mismanagement, how are we going to pay for this, how are we going to pay for that?
The decisions that Labor make will drive up inflation. A ratings agency, which is out there talking about our AAA rating being negatively impacted because of the amount of money that Labor is proposing to spend. That's going to be the lived experience, unfortunately, but that's what Labor do. They always spend more than what they have, which is why they tax more, and that has a dampening impact on the economy as well.
Indeed, it is a fundamental question, but this from the guys that just the reckless financial mismanagement of the coalition has left Australia with $1 trillion in debt, the budget all over the place. It's a complete mess. It is the biggest spend-a-thon, the highest cost of government in Australian history, the highest taxing too. It is an absolute fiscal debacle. Let's just go to an issue which is bipartisan though. When they say, oh no, the cost of the NDIS, that is looking after Australia's most disadvantaged people, it's going to blow out, they say, to 60 billion. How are we going to pay for it? Oh, how are we going to pay for aged care? Look at the rising, spiralling cost of aged care. Look at power bills. Indeed, all these things are real things, and they are real costs that future generations will have to shoulder, as well as us right now working every day to pay for this stuff. But there's one fundamental problem that everybody is missing. It's forest for the trees stuff, and that is we have built a nation of middlemen. We've built a nation of middlemen which is raking out billions of dollars in consulting fees and advisory fees in all these critical sectors. Remember when they corporatised and privatised the power sector and they sold it off to the Chinese and Singaporeans and everybody else? The cost of power bills doubled. It had been going up at CPI before that. Suddenly it doubled and now it's tripled right now. What was the problem there? They built a whole new suite of companies with all their finance departments, HR, PR, management, bonuses, dividends, multinational tax avoidance, all these costs. What do they do with NDIS? Instead of providing a public service for disabled people, they said, no, let's privatise it. And they've created billions of dollars in fees. Look at Job Active, the government function of providing unemployment services, which both sides of the House regard now as a failure. And who are the winners from this? The likes of American multinationals charging for looking after or not looking after Australia's jobless. Hundreds of millions of dollars going to middlemen, some of them multinationals. The wreck that the privatisation of aged care, they've had a royal commission into it, it's a disaster. A lot of elderly Australian people died during COVID as a result of the failure in privatised aged care, not public aged care. They don't even have nurse-patient ratios. This is a disaster. It's been found by a royal commission to be a disaster. And what did they do? It's the result of privatisation. It's the result of middlemen raking out profits, putting profits before people. Look at toll roads. We've sold them all to one big, gigantic, multinational toll road operator called Transurban. It's an Australian company, pays no tax. It's a trust structure. During the pandemic, they put their hand out despite raking out billions in profits over the years and paying extremely high bonuses to their executives. What did they do during the pandemic? They put their little greedy hands out for help from the public, from ordinary taxpayers who are slugged twice, paying their taxes and paying tolls to Transurban, the tax dodger. Another one, home care. That's the provision of food and services to elderly Australians in their homes. We've done some work on this one. In some cases, 50% of it doesn't make it to the elderly person. It may go straight into the pockets of the middlemen, of the home care providers, the corporations. This is the problem. The cost of government is at record highs. The prevailing theory of the way that we should be running the society is neoliberalism. That is, that things are better off in private hands. And how have we got there? We've got there because bankers and lawyers that are on this privatisation gravy train have made huge money out of it and continue to make huge money out of it. So the next one on the table, of course, may be Australia Post. We know that Scott Morrison's government commissioned a report by Boston Consulting Group, another bunch of high-charging middlemen from America. The Boston Consulting Group report recommended flogging Australia Post, selling it off, floating it or privatising it for $7.2 billion. Imagine the post office in every town going to some multinational tax avoider. Would it be more efficient? No, it would not be more efficient, even though it is so inefficient right at the moment. So these are services, these are essential government services which we pay for from our taxes. This is public money. And what's happened over generations? It's just become accepted. We've just allowed it to engulf us without questioning it. What has happened is there has been a gargantuan socialising of the losses and privatising of the profits. And it hasn't worked. It hasn't made the services better. In fact, you could say that in many cases, like aged care, it's made the services worse.
Okay, that outlines beautifully all the things that I think have been put out there. And Michael West always does an amazing job. Okay, so I don't know how many of you caught this one. So Peter Dutton, again, has created more controversy than what he's won. I really think this is like a moment that for the government, that Albo's government, a real gift to them. Because this guy can't hold his nerve long enough to understand national security. And here's why I say that. Because every time there is something in national security, this guy can't help but run to a microphone and then go, shh, 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 I've got some information for you. Dutton is the gift that keeps on giving. He's a monster. He can never ever run the nation. But as opposition leader, he is Anthony Albanese's greatest achievement. Because to me, Dutton staying where he is, great. Because while they do this, this will be opposition for eternity. You know why? Because while he was trying to pretend like boats off the coast of Australia were this big national security issue, that never was. The whole thing was so riled up into this controversy that he couldn't quite get over the line. But have a look at just how crazy this one is, right? Opposition leader Dutton's decision to divulge sensitive discussions with the United States on acquiring nuclear-powered submarines has sparked concern that he may have jeopardised plans for the joint agreement by the year's end. The former Defence Minister, now opposition leader, used an opinion piece in the Australian newspaper. See, he had intelligence. The man was like in power 2 minutes ago. See, he had intelligence. What does he use for a source? I don't know, the Australian. It's quite remarkable to watch an idiot in real time, because you sit down and you go, oh, did he now? It's I'm not shocked that they still pull stunts like this. I'm shocked that they get any votes at all. I mean, you want to get to the point where you're like, really? This is what we're passing out off as leadership? Okay. So under the AUKUS So Mr. Dutton later insisted that if the coalition remained in office, it could have been in the position of making an announcement. That's what it's always been about. To them, it's always about making an announcement. They didn't want to actually do the work. They just wanted the announcement status. Like, look at what we can do. And we can pay 5 times more for the same thing. When they made the announcement of the NBN and said that they could do it cheaper, that's not how it panned out. And when they said that they could do the submarine deal cheaper, that's not how it panned out either. $5 billion is not working out. And then to pull out of deals and then to annoy the French, annoy the Americans, and then disclose national security details. It's almost as if they want to punch themselves in the face. That's the kindest version of this that I can put to it. Here's what's really interesting. I really worry that Labor is now walking away from the POLTICCS deal, from the submarine deal that is closely not in our national security interests. So he couldn't wait to go to 2GB for a statement. He's so needy to be fucking relevant. He ran to a presser. Like, even if you take the 30,000 feet view, the man is that damn needy to be heard about a deal that he has no role in now. That he must breach our national security to do it. Yeah, it's almost galling to think that these people had any power at all. Why would you vote for such a terrible mob ever? And that's what I say to any conservative friends. Look, if you have a conservative friend that's still a conservative, go, dude, they're risking national security as they speak. The more they keep talking, the more problems we are going to have. And to quote Emmanuel Macron, I don't think they lied. I know they did. That there is the whole deal of having the Liberal government. It's not responsible. They are not responsible people. If they were, which they're not, I don't know where to go with this. This is part of what they do. 1 second. Just making sure that the audio is working well. Because I just got a notification that the audio might be mucking up. So, in saying this, Peter Dutton was so desperate to run to a mic, he risked national security to do it. The guy was empowered 2 minutes ago. Quotes the Australian. And then when that didn't work, he ran to 2GB to go, Labor's done a bad thing here, which could have blown the whole thing up. God, hey, I tell you now, this is how they're going to stay in opposition for eternity. Dumb stuff like this is totally preventable. But, I mean, it's how you want to see it. So if you have any conservative friends, remind them of this. Several figures connected to the POLTICCS deal have privately expressed alarm at Dutton's disclosure of defence advice, which included his fears that the Collins-class diesel-electric submarines would not be able to compete against the Chinese South. In the sea beyond 2035. A coalition advisor is pissed that he did it. Like, no. This wasn't just I'm attacking Labor and a few people are mad, that are overseas. This was a home goal, my dude. This was a home goal. He actively got people from his own side that are pissed that he did it. Nah, this is beyond funny at this point. Okay. So a coalition advisor who worked on it said that it was unwise for Mr. Dutton to discuss how Australians aging submarine could soon be detected by emerging radar technologies. Dude, that's freaking national security. Does he not understand? Of course he understands the risk. Look, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what got him kicked out, well, why he left the police force. His own colleagues lost faith in him. And if the story about dog food being left for him on his desk is to be believed, it's not shocking. He continuously does this home goal stuff. Another figure speaking on the condition of their anonymity said Mr. Dutton's editorial buggered plans for the joint announcement by the end of the year between Australia and the UK and the US. See? It's a home goal and he knows it. The United States can't even do what Mr. Dutton's claiming they can, and provided 2 nuclear boats out of the Connecticut production line. Chair of the Defence Studies at Western Australia, Dr. Peter Dean, has echoed concerns about Mr. Dutton's comments. I'm sure that the UK wouldn't be happy to learn from a newspaper article that potentially their submarine is not an option. I'm sure there's plenty of people in the US Congress, the Pentagon, and other parts of the US who are very interested to read the possible developments, Dr. Dean said. That is exactly the problem. He made an own goal. His own side is saying, shut up, Peter Dutton, shut up, Peter Dutton. Why are you telling people this, Peter Dutton? You had the US counterattacking this, going, hey, why are you talking about this deal? You were in power 2 seconds ago. Do you want our national security to fail? Like, if you really want the idea and you're going to do the Reds under the bed scare, the one thing you don't want to do is go, oh, I'm going to tell the Chinese that they've got the technology to detect our submarines. Why would you do that, Mr. Dutton? It mind blows me every time that man opens his mouth. I'm amazed that 1, the Australian ran the article. 2, I'm shocked 2GB gave him a platform to respill it. This wasn't just a whoopsie, I said it once. No. The man used a microphone then after he penned it on his laptop and then thought, I know, I want to talk to the media about how much this is bad. It doesn't shock me he's this stupid. It doesn't shock me that people would vote for an idiot. But you know what really shocks me? That they would hire him to be opposition leader. This is the best gift to Albo ever. Not the whole risking the national security. This idiot is basically like, no, I don't believe I need to keep a secret that could risk our nation's security because I need to have a political relevance. It's so dumb. How can he ever be trusted in any leadership role ever again that's real and tangible if he's willing to run so quickly to the media about something so serious? This isn't just a whoops, I didn't realize that would happen. These are sensitive negotiations, and I think a great concern here is that Peter Dutton has basically worked against the national interest in an attempt for some domestic political scoring. This comes from his own side. His own side is so angry that they're imploring him to no longer do these presses. I'm not shocked that they keep doing this. But I would, if I was Anthony Albanese's team, like they were holding Labor out on many, many negotiations, like with the Solomon Islands and a whole bunch of other deals that were taking place. The submarine deal and a whole bunch of others. You're supposed to take a opposition counterpart, right? And they're supposed to be kept abreast on national security stuff. Why? Because the government could change hands. That's what was supposed to happen. If I was Anthony Albanese, I would not be taking Peter Dutton or his team anywhere, because they're now a risk, and they risk relations with not just us, but other countries' submarines too. He didn't just spill the beans on what was wrong with our aging subs. He then gave up details of overseas. What the UK has, and what sorry, I'm still recovering from the flu. All right. Not just what the UK has, but what the United States has too. This is super important that you understand how terrible a deal of what he did was. And then Mr. Dutton told Channel 9 Comments, nothing beyond was already public knowledge. Really? Really? That was nothing beyond public knowledge? Tell me when the public knew the problems of our subs. Because as far as I knew, we didn't know. This is outrageous to say the least. I don't think he gets it. But just so on a random moment, Peter Dutton, if you're listening, don't be an idiot and run to the mic to do something this stupid ever again. If you get the urge to do this, talk to an advisor, and they will tell you outright if this is a smart move. I know your party is great at ignoring advice, but now is not the time to do that. It's wrong. Okay. On the same vein of that, Albo seems to have secured a better deal. On the whole, where is it? Okay, so with the French, we have had to, because Scott Morrison royally bungled the deal with the subs in France, we've had to pay compensation. Now the LNP can claim all these a million things all they want to. But for us to be any type of contract holders, you do have to pay a settlement. So if you renege on any contract, a $5 billion one at that, there has to be contingency for that company to receive some form of compensation. Albo got it as low as he could have, and it's $835 million to the French submarine contractor over cancelled contract. So Scott Morrison essentially is still costing us money in a deal which he lied about. And the media isn't reporting it as is. They're sort of making it sound like, breach of contract isn't that big of a deal. I'll tell you what, run a company of any size and breach any contract that you have, and tell me that you don't have to come to some sort of settlement on that. Because I can tell you civil courts all over the land exist for this very reason. Contracts are huge. Contracts between governments are even bigger. So I think Albo did the right thing here. So Australian government will pay the French shipbuilder $835 million in compensation after last year's decision to tear up a $90 billion contract to build 12 submarines. He made the announcement. The total amount spent by the Australian taxpayer on the program is now $3.4 billion. The saving is from the $5.5 billion that Senate estimates would result from the program. So we have Albo actively saving the day and restoring some of our integrity while we're at it. This is it, guys. Like, for all the stupid things that Scott Morrison did, this is the shit show left on our lap. And I mean, this is super important. These deals can't be just undone and waved a magic wand to. So it still represents the extraordinary waste from a government that was always big on announcement, but not good on delivery. And from a government that will be remembered as the most wasteful government in Australia's history since Federation. And I mean, Albo's right to call that out. That's where we're at. And it's repugnant. Okay. So, next one. I don't know if you've seen this, but this story is amazing. Oh, my eye is so buggered. When I get tired or stressed, it loses it. Okay. I've had a too big a day for one ordinary person. So, what's happening in the world of One Nation? See, she might have not won her seat, but she is still a public figure. She is an $83 million bundle of awfulness. And I tell you now, this thing isn't over. They want it to be, but that's just not how it works. So, oh geez, whoops, I accidentally hit that button and I didn't mean to. Okay. So here's the meat of it. A staffer from former One Nation Senator Brian Burston has accused him of sexual harassment, saying his behaviour, including allegedly shoving money down her breast, left her feeling degraded, humiliated and disgusted. Terry Lee Very was called to give evidence by the federal court on Thursday on behalf of Pauline Hanson, who is being sued for defamation by Burston. Burston says that the One Nation leader accused him of sexual harassment on social media via text message to his wife, Rosalind Burston. During a television interview, the 74-year-old denies the allegation and says that they're entirely fabricated. Because, of course, Pauline Hanson is this constant shoot yourself in the foot kind of lady. Now, if you haven't seen how she works, she essentially lives to shoot herself in the foot. Okay. Hanson was in court on Thursday in her first public appearance since before the federal election. Very is 47 and she was originally employed by Rosalind Burston as a cleaner, so by his wife, at their home before Burston offered her a job at the electorate office with an astronomical pay rise. Burston would allegedly go on to confess his love for her, saying it began when he first saw her walking down the driveway. Oh yeah. But he wants to sue Hanson for this, right? Not that they hire very creepy people. Okay. She said the alleged sexual harassment began soon after she was hired in May 2017, with comments such as, "Nice to have a good-looking Sheila in the office." Oh my God, that's not creepy. I don't know. That's stupid. Yuck. Very said she felt degraded, very hurt and concerned. The comments escalated to greetings, goodbyes, and kissing on the lips. He tried to passionately kiss me after a function in Canberra in 2018. I slapped him on the back and told him to settle down. One of the alleged incidents, he told her that she had perfectly sized breasts and asked if they were implants, while on another, he gave her a birthday card with a $100 note. Dude, this isn't a prostitute, but even if she was, you can't treat women like this. This is not a normal thing. But sure, you're going to sue One Nation for this. A little weird, but okay. So, I tried to give it back and then forcibly shoved it between my breasts. I was in shock. Burston would regularly take out her take her out to lunch, comment on her sexy appearance and touch her clothes before her daughter was employed and tried to accompany them everywhere. I told her to never leave me alone with him. Very said that she'd become increasingly concerned about other staff members thinking there might be something going on. Did you ever ask him to stop? Henson's barrister Sue asked. Yes, I told him it was making me uncomfortable, but he didn't stop. He said and turned around once a day to see him biting and licking his bottom lip and staring at my bottom. Out of the concert one night, she and her co-worker, Wendy Leach, were being harassed by Burson for photos with Very, threatening to fire them if they refused, she said. Leach was soon fired after telling Burson enough is enough with his infatuation, Very said. But the humiliation brought Very to tears in court after her romance with a former Senator, Peter Groke, who was leaked to the media. The article was placed somewhere shortly after that. And yes, on the office window, Very said. She said Burson put the article out of the window, but she didn't quit as she needed the money and didn't lodge a complaint with HR. It was known that if you do, he gets notified straight away. Under cross-examination, the witness denied Burson had told her and Leach not to drink at the concert, or that her colleague had gotten drunk on the light beers being served. She also rejected the reason he sought photographs that night was to not post pictures of his staff on Facebook page. Hold on. She also rejected the reason that he sought photographs that night was to post pictures of his staff on the Facebook page. Rosalind Burstyn earlier testified that the allegations of her husband sexually harassed women were false. Loads of women in her position do take that stance. I'm not upset that she did. But I think that this is a sign Pauline Hanson actually did something right, fired the idiot, and she's now saying, well, if you're going to sue me, make it worth your while. This might cost her a bit of money for hiring the creepy dude, but in fairness, if you're going to be associated with One Nation, don't expect the best of the best to rock up at your door. You're going to have weird people doing this stuff. One Nation was not founded on really good values, as she likes to put out there, or not even really Australian values, because no Australian value is to be a racist. I'm going to not use that word. It's not to be a racist, terrible person. I think Pauline has done the right move in firing him and making sure that he can no longer darken her door. In a weird moment, I know that she lost her seat and everything else. I think her conduct behind this was smart. The very second that Pauline got a complaint about this man, she fired him. She didn't just fire him. She said, don't come back, basically. Don't darken the door again. I think she actually did have her staff's back. And this is a weird position for me because I hate Pauline Hanson with every fibre of my being. There isn't a moment where I've looked at Pauline Hanson and I thought, hey, good call. But now that she hasn't won her seat and she's becoming less political relevant, all $83 million that she did not earn, in my opinion, you can have a different one if you like, but this is a moment where her party is falling to pieces. After the deal with the NRA fell through and all that video footage was released. Now, if you haven't seen that, I invite you to look up Pauline Hanson NRA deal. It's all on YouTube. And if you haven't seen it, that is when her party dove in support. Around that same time, there was a Queensland election happening, roughly around that same time, very close, and it just tanked her. She knew doing a deal with the NRA was a dumb idea. I don't know where she gets them from. But as a typical conservative, this is what they do. Here's my final story for tonight. So the Snowy Hydro deal that I've been looking at very closely, I remember Labor saying, hey, this was originally something that Labor wanted to start, but eventually it got wound down because it was no longer working as it should. And the LNP thought that they could revamp this because they could throw a lot of money at it and make all these announcements and nothing would actually happen. Like Anthony Albanese said earlier in the week, the LNP are full of announcements and wasting taxpayers' money. What you actually don't see is anything substance that you can use and look to and then go, hey, that works. For instance, the NBN, they constantly claimed that their version would be cheaper and better and everyone would be cheering in the streets. Not only did that not happen, but it could have been wrapped around the world for the amount of copper that they had to buy to do this. Now, that copper that they bought, which is no good, now needs to be ripped up and it needs to be done the way Labor said. This is exactly the same thing. Just hit repeat for every planned thing that they say that they're going to do and then go with, well, that didn't work out the way you said it would, did it? That's how they do this. So let's have a look at how stupid they really were. They kept on announcing this like it was just around the corner. It's clearly not. Federal Energy Minister Chris Bowen has revealed that the Snowy Hydro 2.0 project is facing major delays, a blow amounting to almost 2 years, and slammed the former Morrison government for hiding the news from an energy market already in crisis. In a post-election revelation, the new federal energy minister, Snowy Hydro's management, say that the Snowy Hydro project is facing delays of 19 months and it may not be delivering power until 2028. Everything that they touch turns to shit. I'm just going to call it. You can be mad at me for swearing, but everything the LNP touched turned exactly like this. There isn't, can you point to in the comments somewhere and point out to me one project that they did that was successful? For instance, they took a perfectly well-funded NDIS, privatized it, and then that watched the cost blowout happen. And then they got really mad at the cost blowout that they created. And then it made it very difficult for anyone to get onto the NBN because it was privatized. NDIS. Same deal with the NBN. They made this, it blew up the cost of it and they couldn't control it, and then they bought all this copper that could have been wrapped around the world. Now it all has to come out. Every project, my God, I'm so freaking done with this. Not only am I pleased that ALP won, but at least now we get to the reality. I told you they were going to cook the books. This is one of many instances where they not only cooked the books, but they made sure it was going to make life instrumentally more difficult for every Australian. 2028, we're at an energy crisis now. So one or two things has to happen. There needs to be an incentive for renters to have their house put into solar, right? No longer just a solar initiative for homeowners, right? It needs to be put out there that if you own an investment property, that it is in your best interest to put solar panels on every home. That would be the best thing Albo can do now that this thing's happened. It's not just a massive cost blowout that they caused. They caused a cataclysmic moment of whoopsie, I bungled yet another important infrastructure deal. Not just the subs, not just the NBN, not just the NDIS, but now this. How many chances do you have to give an idiot a go at something before you can officially go, no, you should not have keys to the kingdom? My God, how were they ever elected once? This isn't just a whoopsie, I missed the mark. I think that this has left a terrible, indelible mark on our energy sector. And why? Because this was meant to be the easing of pressure of prices. depending on where you live in which state. In Queensland, it's been because we keep it relatively tapped and the government owns it, it's been kept relatively tamed. But that doesn't mean gas prices and everything else aren't skyrocketing right now. We are in this moment that is bound to explode. Do not think for even a millisecond that this thing isn't going to go pop. But let me just show you how insane it is that they did this. The delay could have serious impacts on energy market, experiencing record high prices, unprecedented coal outages. You know, the thing that Labor kept saying was no longer sustainable, the thing that Labor kept going, hey, we need to work to cleaner energy. No, but they're not done yet. The LNP are now putting out there that we need nuclear, even though that costs significantly more than any clean energy project. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know where they get this radical idea that this is fixable. It's not. None of this is fixable. I think everything that they've touched so far isn't just bad. It's bad for everyone involved. You are all worse off for knowing these idiots. Never ever let them darken our door again, people. Because if they do, we aren't going to recover. But let's just quickly, while we're on this last story. The coalition government threw all its policy eggs into the Snowy 2.0 basket, and the government-funded venture impacted storage projects, causing them to be withdrawn or put to the Snowy 2.0 delay to leave the energy market further exposed. Again, NBN, NDIS. How many more things do they need to do this to? I tell you what, if you have a conservative friend, tell them they're an idiot. Just outright say, you're an idiot. What part is functional? I'm furious because there are so many people struggling. There is no way in the next 10 years that we're going to be able to just glide through this and do something about climate change and deal with this current crisis. That's not how any of this works. I don't know. But I have to hope that now that there is an ALP government, climate change action really takes place, and this project with Snowy Hydro really does take place. As much as I think that it's not a big play in this, it will do something. It does have potential. But I really think Labor needs to be pushing for solar on every home. I think that would ultimately lead to a better crunch of this. Watching how the LNP spoke about getting nuclear was horrendously another bad idea. I don't know if you know this, but Summer Homes of Court funded the major independent play, and watching him was amazing. You know what he said about the nuclear deal? No, it's just not good policy. It's not affordable. Which means the people that he helped elected are going to have that same view. So there's no drive for it. So even the LNP are like, no one's going to want it now. On a final note, I want to name just some of the good things that come out of Albo getting elected. There's no bigot bill. So the 18C bigot bill is gone. The Bea Wheeler family is now home. So they're two really good things. There'll be no 18C revisit. Someone said that to me today, and I'm like, no, I haven't told people about that. That there will be no revisit in Parliament of that hate bill. There won't be this moment of this fever dream for religious zealots to just be horrible. Keep in mind, most religious organisations are quite lovely, but there is this very few that do this thing where they want the right to say something horrendous to people. And those are the ones that need a bit of a balance check. And what Scott Morrison was doing, one of them is his very church. And what they were doing is they were trying to ramp up this whole idea that they could be as awful as they wanted. But luckily that has failed, and horribly. All right. So that leaves this for another week. I want to thank you guys for an amazing week. And I hope this didn't go too long. I want to make sure that you guys know that I care about each and every one of you, and I always read your comments, so please leave me a comment in the comment section. I enjoy that. I want to see you here next week, same place, same time, and have a good week. Thank you. Bye.